Safiye Sultan, or Melik Safiye Sultan, was the wife of Ottoman Sultan III, Murad, and the mother of Sultan III, Mehmed. There is no definite information about her origin, but various anecdotes exist, according to Venetian sources of the time. She was born in the village of Dukokin in Rezi, and was of Albanian origin. During the early years of Sultan III, Murad's reign, a priest named Stefan Gerlach from the German embassy in Istanbul stated that Safiye Sultan was of Bosnian origin and was presented to Sultan Murad by Fahad Pasha during his princely years. It is worth noting that the information about her, being the daughter of the governor of Corfu, whose real name was Cecilia Baffo, and being kidnapped by Ottoman pirates in the Adriatic Sea while traveling between Venice and Corfu and then presented to Prince Murad, is incorrect, as it is a confusion with Nurbanu Sultan. For there is no information available about her life before the palace. It is said that she was presented to Prince Murad by Fahad Pasha. Venetian sources mention that she was presented to Prince Murad at the age of 13. Safiye Sultan became the chief consort. When free, Murad ascended to the throne. With her enchanting beauty and brilliant intelligence, she gained significant influence. Her influence posed a threat to the newly appointed Valid Sultan, Nurbanu Sultan, who sought to eliminate this threat. Leading the forefront of this rivalry were Marima Sultan, Esmihan Sultan, and Gevherhan Sultan. A new concubine was presented to Sultan Murad every day in an attempt to discredit Safiye Sultan. But Sultan Murad remained devoted to his favorite concubine. By 1585, she had overcome powerful female adversaries, but still faced competition from other women such as Miriban Haseki Sultan, Wahuban Haseki Sultan, Nasbeva Haseki Sultan, Kemsi Ruza Haseki Sultan, Farai Haseki Sultan, and others. She struggled to eliminate obstacles on her path to power. As the wife of three, Murad, Safiye Sultan not only intervened in domestic affairs, but also engaged in foreign affairs. She corresponded directly with foreign monarchs and established diplomatic relations. In 1593, Queen Elizabeth I of England sent her a portrait adorned with jewels, and in return, Safiye Sultan sent the Queen a silver embroidered dress and belt with two gold embroidered handkerchiefs. This exchange of gifts continued during her tenure as Valid Sultan, where she reciprocated with a dress, belt, to silver embroidered towels, 3 handkerchiefs, and a crown adorned with rubies and pearls. The English envoy Edward Barton, through his gifts to the Valid Sultan, played a significant role in appointments in Istanbul. These diplomatic ties and exchanges of gifts solidified Safiye Sultan as the Queen's staunch supporter. In 1599, the Queen gifted her an ornate carriage, and Safiye Sultan, in an unprecedented manner for the time, began to travel around Istanbul with it, particularly after the death of Sokolu Mehmed Pasha in 1579. Safiye Sultan played a crucial role in state administration. Safiye Sultan played an active role during her tenure as the Valid Sultan. 6 with the death of 3, Murad in 1595, and the ascension of her son 3, Mehmed, to the throne. Her position as the Valid Sultan further strengthened within the state. She endeavored to protect her son from external threats, including those arising from her husband's death. Notably, she orchestrated the killing of Mahmud, 3, Mehmed's eldest son, based on suspicions of his mother's plans for him to ascend the throne. 3. Mehmed consulted her on important matters, and while Valid Sultan Nurbanu received a daily allowance of 2,000 ak, her son increased her stipend to 3,000 ak, which continued even after his death in the old palace. Safiye Sultan actively influenced appointments. to official positions by accepting bribes and gifts from statesmen, recognizing her significant role in state affairs. Both the public and officials sought her intervention, sometimes even stopping her carriage to make requests. From dismissals to appointments, and in the execution of state affairs, she played a primary and influential role. In 1596, during the Third Mehmed's campaign to Iga, he allocated a treasury of 1 billion ak for his mother's use. As news of the conquest of Iga Castle reached Istanbul, she distributed alms to the poor, orphans, and widows. In foreign policy, Safiye Sultan adopted a pro-Venetian stance, similar to her mother-in-law Nurbanu. Undoubtedly, her support for Venice was influenced by the rich gifts presented to her by Venetian ambassadors. Reports from Istanbul's envoys during that period reflected Safiye Sultan's reliable and trustworthy nature. Venetian envoy Matteo Zane noted her as a woman who kept her word and requested what she wanted from ambassadors without waiting for them to offer gifts. Thanks to Safiye Sultan, Venice managed to navigate many dangers in bilateral relations without escalation. Valid Sultan maintained her diplomatic connections through her close servant, chambermaid, and Jewish intermediary, Esperanzo Mulhi, Esperanzo. Central to the functioning of the bribery network, amassed great wealth, took control of the Istanbul customs, and met a tragic end along with his son, during a rebellion instigated by the Hassa soldiers on April 1, 1600. Though rebels believed Safiye Sultan had a significant role in the incident, she narrowly escaped as the Sultan intervened, promising to admonish his mother to pacify the rebels. The mother of Wazid Mahmud, born in 1587, becomes curious about when her son will ascend to the throne one day. She writes a letter to a fortune teller, inquiring about the timing of her son's succession. The response to her inquiry falls into the hands of Safiye Sultan. Consequently, in the year 1603, both the mother and the prince are drowned. During the unrest that arose in 1603 among factions, whose tensions increased due to the rivalry between Grand Vizier Zahir Islam Sunullah Effendi and Yemichki Hazem Pasha, Safiye Sultan found herself in a difficult situation. Despite rebels demanding her exile, Mehmed, in order to quell the military uprising, had to resort to drastic measures by having his close aides, Kapiafasi Gazanfa Aka and Drasada Kasi Osman Aka, killed and handed over to the insurgents. Later, Safiye Sultan became embroiled in a dispute with the Grand Vizier Yemichki Hazem Pasha, ultimately ensuring his execution. Safiye Sultan received a daily allowance of 3,000 ak, which was more than the new valid Sultan, Handan Sultan. Despite this, she remained in the harem. However, this situation did not last long. After her son's death, Safiye Sultan's position diminished, and Handan Sultan, also known as Benli Haseki, took her place. Claims suggesting that she held the title of Grand Valid Sultan are mere speculation, as this title was first used by Kazem Sultan, 9 in the harem. There couldn't be dual leadership, and the one who held the seal was the rightful valid Sultan. Therefore, one of the first actions taken was to send Safiye Sultan to the Old Palace, along with Sultan Ahmed's circumcision ceremony. After only 18 or 19 days in the palace following her son's death, Safiye Sultan was sent to the Old Palace in a grand procession on January 9, 1604. It is mentioned in sources that she cursed her grandson upon exile, along with all her servants and women. Consequently, individuals close to Safiye Sultan were also distanced from the harem. Since Sultan Ahmed ascended the throne before going on a campaign, and Safiye Sultan was sent away with the entire procession, The palace was almost empty, therefore, contrary to popular belief, it was Valid Handan Sultan, not Kazem Sultan, who sent Safiye Sultan to the old palace. After settling in the old palace, Safiye Sultan spent the rest of her life there without being able to intervene in politics. On April 9, 1598, Safiye Sultan initiated the construction of the Yenikami Mosque in Emina with a ceremony. However, when her son died and she was transferred to the old palace, the construction of the complex, which had progressed significantly, remained incomplete. It was eventually completed in 1665 by Turhan Sultan, the mother of Afsi Mehmet. Besides this mosque, she built a mosque and fountain in the Karamanli village in Skdar, established a foundation for the recitation of the Quran in her husband's tomb, and built a tomb on the grave of a descendant of Imam Ghazali. In the Ekspaka neighborhood of Fatih, she built a palace in the Davud Paya area and occasionally resided there with Mehmed, organizing feasts. In 1598, she built a madriz named after herself and, in 1610, a mosque called Melik Safiye Kami in Cairo. Apart from these, during times of war, she made donations from her own wealth for the expenses of the army, paid off the debts of those in difficult situations, and distributed alms to the poor in the places where her travels took her. In January 1619, she fell ill during a trip she organized to the capital. Despite the interventions of physicians, she passed away on the same day. The exact cause of her death is not known, but it is thought to be either a heart attack or a cerebral hemorrhage. Her funeral took place at the tomb of her husband, Sultan III Murad, located in the former baptistry of the Hagia Sophia Mosque in Istanbul.